Attention, intention, and awareness really make for being more present to the moment.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Mastrius for this sneak peek with artist and mentor, Ron Rosenstock. Ron will be discussing how to create meaningful photographs. At Mastrius, you get personal feedback, teaching, advice, and support from a master artist of your choice, so you can reach your goals in your style at your pace. I'm your host, Marcia Korsveld, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Mastrius mentor, Ron Rosenstock. Ron has been creating images of the world and its people since the 1950s. He earned his Master of Arts degree in photography from Goddard College and was an instructor of photography at Clark University for 30 years. He has exhibited his work in more than 100 shows worldwide and is featured in numerous permanent exhibitions, including the Fogg Art Museum at Harvard University, the Worcester Art Museum, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the International Center of Photography in New York City. Ron has also published 6 books of his photographs. Presently, Ron is a frequent lecturer to social community and professional groups, as well as an international photo tour leader in Ireland, Scotland, Iceland, Greenland, Morocco, Italy, Greece, New Zealand, and Maine.
Enjoying the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when new Mastrius videos are added.
I'm really excited to dive in. Ron, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Marcia. It's a privilege to be here.
Oh,
And
I'm so glad to meet you.
yeah. Well, I'd like to start with a wonderful quote by Pablo Picasso, and that is, "Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life." You know, art is so much part of being a human being. You know, just a little sideline here. A few months ago, my wife and I were out in Moab, Utah, and just seeing the petroglyphs, thousands of year old sort of art on the walls. And then, in fact, the other night on TV, there was a show about the first inhabitants of the Amazon basin, in South America. And again, the same kind of artwork, that goes back thousands and thousands of years. So art is so much, a part of our DNA. My art, has been photography, and I've been a photographer for as long as I can remember. And in fact, I never really had a real job, so to speak, and I get joked about that a lot. But photography to me really is kind of a spiritual practice as well. Well, I want to basically give you an idea of what you can expect to learn, if you would like to study with me at Mastrius. Perhaps first and the primary thing is, there are different kinds of photography. There's documentary photography and there's interpretive photography. My specialty more is in interpretive photography. I'm not necessarily in making just kind of memory jogs. We all have iPhones and we all take pictures all the time. And often those pictures kind of wind up staying in the hard drive in our phone and we don't really do much with them. Occasionally we rediscover them and then we have this memory jog, what a wonderful time we had. Okay, well, interpretive photography, creative photography, is a different kind of pursuit. It requires, a different kind of, approach, to creating meaningful art. There are like 3 things that I stress, in my teaching, as opposed to the technique, which I get into pretty heavily also. But aside from that, attention, intention, and awareness really make for being more present to the moment. And I'll, during the course of the Mastrius sessions, I'm going to elaborate on what I mean by those 3 very important, ingredients. But just to give you the Reader's Digest version of it right now, you are where your attention is. I mean, if you're going to create meaningful art and you're worried about so many things to worry about now, besides the weather and politics and these horrible wars going on. I mean, there's just so much stuff you could worry about. You could get consumed in that. You got to kind of step out of that and become yourself again, your essential, creative self. So you need to be where your attention is, and your attention has to be present, to the moment. Intention. It's good to know where you're going. Why do you want to create art? I feel it's important to share your work with others, for a number of reasons, to inspire others. And also, it's kind of affirming. We all need kind of affirmations. It's like a little pat on the back. You make an effort to have an exhibit, and having an exhibit is not that difficult. In fact, I do a lot of one-day workshops here in New England where I live, on getting ready to exhibit. And I'm going to go over what is required, to exhibit. It's not pie in the sky. It's something anybody can do. And there's so many sort of places out there, nonprofit galleries that are looking for quality work to hang on their walls, just to name a few, okay? Personally speaking, just the other day, in fact, I had my annual physical and my doctor's appointment. In the waiting room, what do I see? My photographs.
Oh, excellent.
Because years ago, when this doctor first came to town, he had these terrible posters in his waiting room. And I said, Dr. Baker, these posters are going to make people sick. I said, let me replace them. And I put up framed work, with my card there, and people have contacted me, and it helps people, and that's another thing about photography, helping people, inspiring people, letting them know how beautiful the world is, helping them kind of be more present, when seeing your work. So, having an intention, whether it's to exhibit, whether it's even to make like a lovely calendar that you're going to send to your friends and family. Like there's so many things you can do with your work. And I'm going to go into, detail, about how you can, present your work, whether it's for a calendar, whether it's a blurb book, whether it's for an exhibition. I really want to, cover that very thoroughly during the Mastrius sessions. So, I'm going to make people kind of make a list of what their goals are, short term and long term. Honestly, about 50 years ago, I made myself a list. And it was like, I thought this, it just seemed like it'll never happen. I was 50 years younger, obviously. And, but I knew what I wanted. And, if you kind of ask the universe what you want, it's amazing, how it'll cooperate with you. But you have to, it's not only trust, it's having faith and faith in yourself. That's really kind of an essential element to any kind of creative artwork. Awareness, also I'm going to go into great detail. It really has to do with sort of one's level of appreciation. This is something that it comes with practice. I'm forever seeing photographs, like in my mind's eye, wherever I go, the light will reflect off of something, and I say, wow, this could be a really nice image. And by the way, I'm going to give you another little quote here from Ansel Adams, and that is, good photographs are made, not taken. And again, this is going to go a lot into the technique. The universe did not create everything just so we can photograph it the way the camera sees it. Yeah, you have to know there's a difference between the way your eyes and your heart and your brain kind of see something versus the camera, which is just a box. Okay, it's just a simple little tool. And speaking of that, as Marcia mentioned, I lead these photographic tours like in many different countries, and I've had people just with an iPhone, or I've had someone with like $10,000 worth of, the most expensive Leica gear you can imagine. There's no equation that's going to say the more money you spend, the more creative you're going to be. In fact, I learned a long time ago, no matter how much money you spend, you can't buy creativity, because you can't buy something you're born with. This is something that we literally are born with. You've often seen little babies kind of staring around, taking in the world. They're not judging it. They're just enjoying it. They're kind of really taking it in. And this is something we have to get back to, that kind of feeling of innocence and our own creative spirit. So awareness, also super, super important. You know, I want you to photograph what something feels like as opposed to what it looks like. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, it's very, very true. In fact, I said this many, many years ago, that depth of feeling is more important than depth of field. And that kind of means like your own vision is more important than the technique. I am going to go into technique, but I have to tell you, to be totally honest, I'm not one of these tech guys that knows everything about Photoshop and Lightroom and all that. And to be right up front here, I don't have Photoshop or Lightroom. Okay. I started years ago in the darkroom. Actually, I started, as Marcia mentioned, I took, photographs in the 1950s. Well, I was only like in junior high school in the 50s, but I did photograph and I did have a darkroom. And I actually got my work out there a little bit, even back in those days. Um, but the darkroom gave me a really good foundation, in the photographic process. And now the digital photography, which I'm 100% digital, by the way, switching was not easy. It happened about 20, 25 years ago, but now I would never go back. I just love what I can do. Okay, so I diverted there a little bit. Getting back to the technique. When I first got into digital photography, I bought a MacBook computer, and I signed on with the Apple Store to have tutoring. It's like it was called one-on-one, and I think I paid $100, and I was able to go like once a week for a tutoring session. Well, I actually went twice because once I got a little bit of confidence, I knew I couldn't screw up. I could hit Command Z and go back. It took the fear out of digital photography, and I've been, I have some of the most basic technique you can imagine. It's not that different from what I did in the darkroom. Some of the world's greatest photographs, like if you went to, say a dozen of the world's best museums, to look at their photography collection, you'd see a lot of the classic work of Edward Weston, Ansel Adams, Minor White, Imogene Cunningham, Brett Weston. I could go on and on and on. These people worked in the darkroom. So what did the darkroom have for technique? Lighter, darker, cropping, contrast controls, nothing like what we have today. And I'm positive Ansel Adams would have loved digital photography, because we could do everything we did in the darkroom and so much more. Being able to clone or give certain areas more contrast. This has to do with interpreting the image. And this is something that over the years just gets better and better and better. I shouldn't tell you this. My wife says never talk about your age, and she's right. But another thing I could tell you. My grandmother used to say it pays to get older. And in some ways, I just find I know so much more now. Next month I'm going to hit 81, and it's kind of exciting. And I keep on rediscovering older files or even my older negatives. I go my negative file and I look at the prints I made back then. I could scan those negatives and improve them so much. I find that really, really exciting. In fact, I have some work that's going to come up soon. I belong to the Providence Art Club, Providence, Rhode Island. And they only like to have work exhibited that's made within the last 2 years. So I wrote to the gallery director and I said, well, what if I, went back 20 or 30 years and found an old photograph that was really poorly printed, and I could do so much better now, and I reinvent it where it's like not even recognizable to the original. And he said, yeah, sure. Why not? Because that's, it's like what I am now, in fact, I tell you a quick little story here. I worked with Minor White at MIT back in the 60s. And I asked Minor if he ever kept printing notes. And he said, no, because I want my printing evolves. Like I get better as the years go on. We never stop getting better. I'm going to sort of wind this up a little bit with a little story about Pablo Casals, who was interviewed when he was 60, and he said if he died tomorrow, he would die a happy man. He's learned so much about, music, the famous cellist. When he
Yes.
was 70, he was interviewed again, and he said, "You're never going to believe how much more I've learned to appreciate music." Well, this went on. When he was 80, he said, "You're never going to believe me, but between 70 and 80 have been the greatest years of my life." When he was 90, same thing. We're always going in a direction. You know, um, we don't know what's at the end of the road, but we're heading there. Because we keep on improving. And that's what I hope to be able to impart on the people who work with me, to let them recognize their own creative spirit and to help them improve their photographic, vision and technique at the same time.
That's amazing, Ron. And it's like, I got so much out of listening to you talk there, because my takeaway is that technology is far beyond anything I think you could have imagined back in, say, 1960. But at the heart of it, you still have your attention, your passion for it. And that hasn't changed at all. So,
Exactly.
yeah, no, that's excellent. Now, I have one quick question for you, if I could.
Sure.
So, what is the one piece of advice or encouragement that you would give an artist that you wish you had heard when you were starting out?
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to give you a quote first. And this is by Meister Eckhart, 12th century German theologian, who said, "Art is not just for special people, but everyone is a special kind of an artist." Okay. This is kind of an affirmation that, people who are starting out, um, our ability to appreciate is so much better, so much more developed at an earlier stage than our ability to do. To do takes practice, practice, practice. Like the story about how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. But our ability to appreciate is already kind of there. So just to recognize our own creative spirit, as we're starting off, I think is exceptionally important to let you know that you are a creative being and this is your birthright.
Thanks for sharing that, Ron. And
Okay.
thank you to everyone who's been watching. If you'd like to learn more about Mastrius, check us out at mastrius.com. Everything we do is live, interactive, and online. So you'll get your questions answered in real time and learn exactly what you need to reach your goals, whatever they are. I'm a member at Mastrius, and I absolutely love it because I'm learning and growing my skills fast, and the community is so supportive and welcoming. I hope you'll join us. Find out more at mastrius.com.